Hello everyone, we are Aitana, Gabi and Dunia, and we are going to answer the question of are toy preferences imposed by social roles?
In our opinion, both evolution and gender socialization influence toys' preferences. It sounds evident for a lot of people that our social environment influences our perception, but the role of the evolution seems more important than what we first thought. In studies about monkeys, we can observe that males and females choose toys corresponding to human boys and girls' preferences. This similarity with our species cannot be explained by gender socialization like we have in human societies. These preferences might be influenced by the differences in visual processing. We saw that male monkeys tend to prefer objects that provide experience of tracking spatial movements, which is useful in the nature for hunting, for example, locating food or mates. Females prefer dolls and warm colors. It could be due to the importance of caretaking of infants. Hormones seem to predispose to an interest in a certain type of object. For example, studies show that females exposed to androgens might have a preference for so-called boy toys. We think that it's important to consider both nature and nurture to understand toys' preferences.
So now talking about the advantages from both perspectives, from the social perspective, the actual sex dimorphic differences could be explained by the social roles learned from early males and females in the past that due to the transmission from generation to generation, they have caused an evolution of the visual processing system. By the other hand, talking about the advantages of the evolutionary perspective, there is strong evidence from the evolutionary perspective that could explain the development of sex dimorphic behaviors with adaptive significance. It would explain why toys such as balls or cars are more interesting to males than to females because of the adaptive significance of the spatial abilities required for hunting related with tracking spatial movements of objects. By the other hand, girls' preferences for dolls and warm colors will be explained by the fact that their visual system has evolved to improve the search of food and caretaking of infants due to a high sensitivity to object features, giving them the advantage in facial expression processing.
Now we are going to explain some limitations of the social perspective and the evolutionary position. The social perspective does not take into account genetic predispositions and biological gender differences. That is, it has been demonstrated that humans relate differently according to their gender. For example, boys are more attracted to the engineering of objects and to understand how systems work. On the other hand, girls have a greater interest in people since they have a greater capacity to empathize with others. All this is because men and women share physiological and psychological characteristics but differ in important ways that can be understood in terms of evolutionary principles, mainly in aspects that are related to their role in the reproductive process. The evolutionary perspective does not take into account all the influences that environmental factors may entail. The environment where a child is educated and their sociocultural context affect human development. This is explained by Albert Bandura's theory of social learning and operant conditioning teaching from of Skinner. For example, cultural education like reinforcement and punishments and the messages the child receives from society influence in his behavior and interest. In addition, the science of epigenetics warns and explains how the different events that occur throughout life, even before birth, modify our genetics and with it future generations. This factor, which does not take into account in the evolutionary theory, can explain how adaptive interest and capacities can evolve and change over time in human beings.
So now talking about the conclusions, The evolutionary theory defends that there exist sex-dimorphic preferences for optic features such as the movement or the color or the form due to differences in the visual processing that contribute to behaviors with differential adaptive significance for males and females that could explain this toy preferences phenomenon. Findings show that the time playing with male-type toys increased as boys got older, but the same pattern was not found in girls. This could indicate that stereotypical social effects persist longer for boys, or that there exists a stronger biological predisposition for certain play styles in boys. In observational studies, there is more evidence of the effect of environment on girls than on boys' toy preferences. On the other hand, when assessing the effects of age, it could be argued that social effects on boys are stronger or persist longer than those on girls, or that there is a stronger biological predisposition for boys' attraction to particular object features.
So, after the review of both perspectives, which one do you think it will explain more accurately the answer to the origin of toy preferences, the social position or the evolutionary theory?